Welcome to one more episode of Archicad Now, this webinar series. So this is season 2, so series 2 and episode 3, normally hosted by me, Marcelo. I'm the business development for GRAPHISOFT Singapore, and together with my colleague James Badcock is a BIM consultant for GRAPHISOFT Singapore. So every series we have 4 episodes. So we already had 2 previous episodes in this season, where in the first event I talked about building up library objects, using objects from other sources or any geometry we want to create and enrich them with specifications and properties. And then last week, James taught us some tips and tricks on how to use curtain wall for early design stage. So not use it purely as a curtain wall as a construction element, but use it, as a repetitive pattern or some schematic design tool, so that you could use it for many different purposes. If you're interested to see this, these other episodes are available online on YouTube. I will show you later the channel where you can access that. So today's session, I will be talking about the basics of Rhino-Grasshopper-Archicad connections. So what do you need to know to get started? And I will even start with some basic scripting for this. Next week, we'll have the pleasure to have here Zenru together with her team and talk about how they use BIM to empower their remote team collaboration, real time on any project, on any model, okay? So this one will be very interesting. I'm way more boring in that sense. So this is the team that will be presenting next week. So Zenru together with Desi and Sam. They're actually based in each one in different countries. So it's very interesting to see how they collaborate and work together on projects. They're also award-winning company, so they have really good projects, really nice designs. So let's go into the topic of today. So the introduction to Rhino-Grasshopper-Archicad connection. So for this, I will spend some time explaining the basics. So what is Rhino, what is Grasshopper, and what is Archicad? So basically, Rhino is a free-form modeling tool. So let's say you want to model any shape, any twisted element, or those shapes that are just connecting 2 lines, or swirling or revolving, or these normal geometries that you wouldn't use so much in construction. But whenever you have like a challenge of building those things, these tools like Grasshopper and Rhino will really help you on that. So I put here this example of something that you could use, that you could achieve by using a tool like this.
What is the example, Marcelo?
So this one is, I think, is a chair. It could be a back of a chair or something like that. So it's normally these shapes are like nerve based, meaning that it's like a 3-dimensional curve. So it's very difficult to just on a CAD tool to generate stuff like this, or it's more difficult. So I would say this is the tool for free-form modeling. Then Rhino comes together with Grasshopper. So Grasshopper is actually like a byproduct of Rhino that allows us to enhance this, right? So basically, you could actually script this whole chair, with the triangles, the thickness of the elements, what is the offset, what is the fillet of the curve that you want to have, so that this whole shape could be generated by a script like this. And these scripts are actually made out of nodes and connections. And these nodes, some contain certain elements like a curve, or they can contain, other properties. Let's say this one is saying that it is going to divide a curve into how many points you want. You can add the number of points, then you want those elements to go and generate something either in Rhino side or on Archicad side. So this connection, actually what it's doing is he's saying that everything that is going on until this line that is just Grasshopper based can also give origin to elements on the Archicad side. So in this case, we have the column and a beam here. And lastly, you know that Archicad is a beam authoring tool. So by using a workflow combining these three softwares, you're actually squeezing the best out of the three. So basically, Rhino would help by having these freeform shapes. Grasshopper, you can come out with a recipe for your design or your script. And then the beam authoring tool will allow you to control the data, the beam data, and document everything more easily, because you will document everything from the model. And even the data that we populate on the elements can be done from Archicad side or either from Grasshopper side. So where can we get these? Basically, I put here the websites you guys can look into. So we have this website for Rhino is rhino3d.com. If you go to download, you will see that they have two versions, one for Windows, one for Mac, just like Archicad. So you're not tied by the OS or by the type of machine that you use. In both versions of Rhino, we can get a 90-day evaluation. So I would say this is perfect if you guys have a project that you would like to implement this, spend some time. I would say 90 days is very reasonable to learn something and even use it on a project. So I strongly encourage you, if you want to understand more about this, to download and use this session, you know, as a kickstart for you to see how we can go about this. Then you see that we also need to get Archicad. So basically, you download Archicad from our website. And also you have available there the Rhino-Grasshopper Connection. As you can see here on our website, the interface is a bit different. Since last week, we have launched a new website. I strongly encourage all of you to go there and see what are the new things we have available there. And another thing is just go and download the connections and see what other resources we have there. I'll tap on a few later on this session. So basically, when we connect Rhino, Grasshopper, and Archicad, this would be like the kind of setup you would have in your screen. So you would have one window where you put the script that is going to generate the shape that we're working on. So this is on Grasshopper. You can see here the logo. Then we would have happening with some base curves or even some points on the Rhino side, the geometry creation. And then this geometry will be sent to Archicad as native beam elements. So in this case, we have columns here that are being generated, but later on we could add, you know, the beams on top of these columns and make this shape change according to how we play in this script. Okay, I haven't put much information here yet because I want to cover that on the live demo, but I want you to understand that this is the setup. Even if we ignore what's happening in Rhino, we always need to have Rhino open so it could run Grasshopper and it would generate what's going on inside Archicad. So why do people do this? You might think about yourself like, okay, it would probably be easier for me to place each column and then change, you know, the angle of each one by one. But the idea here is, instead of using a traditional design approach where you design and then you go and document and control all your information from the project, what this allows you to do is, while designing, you're already controlling all the information. So, and also you're not afraid of changing your design at a later stage, because you know that that will be fully reflected in your beam model, and therefore fully reflected on your BIM documentation. And even the information, if you have schedules with the number of columns, the area of the slabs, if your design changes, those design changes will be reflected directly on the schedules that you have previously prepared. So even if they are on layouts, they will immediately reflect all the changes. So besides saving time, you won't be afraid of changing your design at later stages of the project. So this is actually like a diagram that was developed by BIG. They were one of the very strong influencers of this workflow that is Rhino and Grasshopper based. So going back to our website where you can get the resources. So if you go to the downloads and add-ons for interoperability, you will have Rhino there, the Rhino-Grasshopper-Archicad connection. And you see that we keep also a track of the previous versions. So in Archicad 19, we already had it, and in 18. At this moment of time, there was only the connection for Windows because there was no Rhino for Mac. The moment we started having Rhino for Mac, we started developing also the connection for it. So this has been already 6 years that this has been around. So I would say it's getting more and more robust. And every time you want to download, you have a user guide that you can go through in case you're stuck. And lastly, if you can't figure it out yourself, even after this demo, you can always reach out to us and we'll help you with it. Okay, other things that I'll strongly encourage you to go through are, for example, there's already an online webinar that was recorded a few years ago when this whole thing started. He explains in detail why we developed this way, why we decided to go together with the most market dominant tool instead of creating our own, and why we believe that this is a workflow that you should adopt in your let's say daily or in your profession. Another thing that I even personally used to learn how this works is I went through the Rhino-Grasshopper-Archicad Connection tutorials. So in our YouTube channel from GRAPHISOFT, you can actually find there a playlist of 21 videos that shows you step by step how you can create different scripts. So you can create a parametric tower, freeform shading device, triangulated surface, algorithmic fans, solar panels, roof design. So you can take these scripts and use it anytime you want in your projects, and you can understand the logic behind this scripting. Okay, so now based on this, I will jump into Archicad and show you how this works. So let me show you. I think I can also show you here on the website.
I was
resources that I meant.
I was sharing the links as well in the chat.
Okay, you're sharing the links, are you?
Yeah.
That's perfect. Good idea, mate. So thanks for that, James. So basically, this is our new website. You can spend more time here. I won't go into details. On a specific location of the website, you can get the add-ons, the updates, everything, where you find the licensing. The webinar, so you could see here that was done already 5 years ago, almost. It explains you why we have this, as I just mentioned. Then let me show you under Rhino, you can just download. I think you have just to create an account so you can download it. And one more thing that I want to highlight here is that I think for most of you that are Archicad clients already, your struggle won't be how to use Archicad with the Rhino and Grasshopper. Your struggle will be how to understand Grasshopper, right? So basically, what I advise to do is to go through some websites. They have some tutorials that you can go through. They explain how parametric design works, why should we use, what type of forms can we generate, what are the benefits that we can get from here, see the difference between text-based programming and visual programming. So just go through some of these things, and then you'll be more familiar with what this parametric design is. And then there are other materials. So I personally went through this Grasshopper primer to understand, the basic concepts of it. And if you just, Google these things, you'll be able to find them online. And even you can just right click and download the PDF. Okay, so you'll be able to get these PDFs, and they will show you, how everything works here. So what does every node means from the panels and so on. So I won't be going through that. I'll jump directly into Archicad 24. So basically, you can see here that I have on the left side of my screen, I have Rhino. On the right side of my screen, I have Archicad, for those who are not familiar with it. Well, you should know by now. And since I have downloaded and installed the Rhino-Grasshopper Connection, I'm able to, let me bring this up here. I'm able to launch this Grasshopper palette. So you can find this under File, Interoperability, Grasshopper Connection. And this will tell you that, if you start the connection, in case you have Grasshopper running, it will show you that you will connect that to the Grasshopper file. So basically, I will launch here Grasshopper. So the minimum you need to know about this Rhino is that you need to type Grasshopper on the command line to launch Grasshopper here. Okay. So Grasshopper looks like this. I will keep a window like this so I can show also some things going on here on the Rhino side. You can see we have the two axes, and so X, Y, and X, and then we have Z with the. So at the moment I'm using the perspective view. You can actually choose top, front, right, and so on. Normally, I like to see the perspective view to see if the script is generating whatever shape I want. And when I launch Grasshopper, I can immediately choose how, if I want to use recent file. So you see I have created one here for Archicad Now script. I think I will share also this script in the end to your on the GoToMeeting. Can we do that? Can we put files on here?
I don't know, but we can try.
We can try, or otherwise you guys just drop us an email and I will send the link, the script to you guys. Well, you can also follow step by step what I'll be doing, and that should be okay. So you see that this will be what I will generate. So for now, what I want to do is I want to connect to Archicad a file. And since I have two files, unnamed and this one, I will choose to connect unnamed to this file. And basically on this file, let's say I don't have anything. This is unnamed, it wasn't saved yet. I advise you to save the file, because even if you have a problem on crashing, let's see now, season 2, episode 3. So I'll save this one. So basically, if it's saved, then in case it crashes, you will recover it. I have the experience of it crashing a bit on Mac side. It's way more stable on Windows side. So for those who are using Mac, bear with it a bit. But the good news is that most of the time is able to recover with on the last step that you were, so it's not so critical.
So,
So
Rhino
now,
Graph does the auto saving as well?
yeah,
Does
yeah,
it?
yeah. So now you see here, I start the connection, and you can see now I have the file ACNS2E3, so which is this file ACNS2E3. So let's get this started. So how can we make it work? Let me put this palette here on the side. This is the moment where if you have two screens, it would be super useful. So you can have, let's say, Archicad in one screen in one side, and then you have Rhino on the other side. Let me hide the navigator. Oh. Okay, so
it's not designed for a 15-inch monitor.
yeah, it's a bit tough to manage space, but we're used to. So basically, I have here like the center of my screen. I have my section, my elevation lines. So I will use just a polyline to define. Let's say we had some terrain, and I want to generate, you know, some building shape. Let's say my building shape will be something like this. And then let's say from this building shape, I want to start placing a slab. I want to start placing walls. I want to start placing columns. So let's see how this would work out. So where is it? So here, if you install successfully the Rhino-Grasshopper connection, what you will have is a tab here on the top of your Grasshopper panel that will have the Archicad elements. So basically, all the other elements are Grasshopper native elements. There are multiple ways you can access these icons or these triggers. One is, for example, you go to curve, you want this divide curve, you just drag and drop and put it there, or you can just double click on the canvas and write divide, and it will show you what are the options to divide. So you can divide the length, you can divide by distance. So by clicking on it, you will have this element as well. So now at the moment, what do we have? We have an Archicad curve. So basically, it's a 2D curve. And for that, I will drag a node of a 2D curve here. And I'll put this in the beginning. And then I want to make this 2D curve. It's a good practice to make a curve that comes from Archicad, to make it a Rhino curve or a Grasshopper native curve. Okay, so this way you will say, okay, we're taking some geometry from outside and we make it our own geometry. Okay, so let's say I take this one here, the 2D curve, and I can just right click, set one 2D curve in Archicad. So basically, I'm going to choose in Archicad a curve to be placed there. And you notice that the nodes went from orange into gray, right? And by doing that, also the same curve is now available in Rhino side. So what happens if I move, let's say, a point on this curve? I change it in one place. Because this connection is actively working, it changed there as well. Okay, so this is the beauty of working with some parametric design tool like this, because with this workflow, actually what will happen is that every time you change even one element, multiple elements will follow that change. So let's see what are the changes that we're going to do to this curve. So basically, I want to take this curve and let's say I can make it into a slab because it's a closed curve. So I can go here under my design elements. I see a slab. So I just drag and drop, and I say that, okay, this polygon will generate a slab. Okay, so I see it immediately on the Rhino side, and you guys see here that the slab is available there. I can go to 3D and see the slide here, or the slab here, or I can just select it and see that the slab was successfully generated. So I see here one slab. Okay, because this is a closed contour, I can also say that, okay, around this slab, let's say I want to have, for example, a wall. So I place here a wall, and I want this curve also to generate a wall there. So you see, without doing anything here, I have a slab and a wall already. And if I want the wall to have certain settings, I can just, go here into the wall settings and choose from the wall settings. I place here this node. I know it's quite big. It contains a lot of settings from a wall. And I say, okay, instead of which composite do I want to use? I go on the set one composite. And what it does is it goes through the composites that we have in Archicad, so we can place them here. So let's say I want my composite to be 100 block wall insulated. And if I connect this to my wall settings, you can see that it has changed in my project. So you can imagine, for example, you have a project with hundreds of walls. Instead of you going and change it, through a schedule or through find and select, if you know where this element is, you can control it here. And then you can even set the height. So let's say I want to do another slab that will be moved in terms of height. So let's say in another floor. So for that, I will have a copy of this curve. So I will want to move it. No, actually, since I want to move it up, it's unit Z because it's vertical. I want to move it. So this curve will be moved. Can you guys see here?
Yep.
It's always tricky because Rhino has a way to orbit and Archicad has another way to orbit. And I want to say that I want to move it on the Z value. And I want my factor, I can write, let's say 2.4. Okay, so this will move up 2.4 meters, that curve. If I want to move it more further up, can you see on the bottom left side that this is creating the slab on another place? The interesting thing is that I can also use this height to connect here to the wall settings. And now my wall, so if I move the next slab up or down, my wall height will follow that. So I will take this move, and this move has created more geometry, and I want to generate another slab. So I take this slab here, and I do a polygon, so I synchronize, and now I have, I go to Archicad, and I have a slab on the bottom, a slab on top, and a wall in between. What happens if I'm designing halfway and I know, okay, this is going to need to be, let's say 3.8, and immediately my floor height will become 3.8. And if I go on the settings of this wall, I see here that the height is 3,800, even regardless of the story settings that I had. So the story settings I had was 3 meters between stories. So this means that this wall will go 800 above that story. Okay. And now let's say, for example, that I want to make this wall or this height, let's say 5 meters. And I realized that I want to make this wall, for example, a glass wall, or I even had a favorite inside Archicad that I came here and I choose, okay, I want to create a new wall that will be glass. Instead of 300 mm thickness will be only 20. I don't want it to be linked to the home story. I want it to be 5,000. It's not going to be structural bearing. It will be a finish wall or a curtain wall, whatever layer you want. And once I'm happy with this, I can even have, other classifications, properties. I can say that this will be, a different kind of element. Click OK. No, before clicking OK, I'm going to save this as a favorite. So I'll call it schematic glass wall. Okay. So what this does is it generates a favorite here that is the schematic glass wall that I can later use inside Grasshopper. So let's say I want to delete these wall settings here, and I will just use a favorite. So the favorite, you can get it from here, is this star. And you can see with this, we have a way simpler way. So I'll choose schematic glass wall. Because I connected the favorite to wall settings, it only allows me to get wall. If I disconnect, so to disconnect, I just right click, disconnect selected. If I choose like that, I can actually choose any other types of favorites. But let's go back to it. And I place this one here. Okay, so we go to Archicad and I have my glass wall with the two slabs from the different stories. So I see here, I need to move this further up so that it's attached to that. So you see, it's just a different way of modeling. And once you start having a ratio to this works rational to this works quite well. So let's say now, what if I want to, so far I've been placing elements that are linear, right? Like a wall that will have a continuous line, and elements that we have a contour and they are filled. So basically, if I want to add, let's say, fill, I can take this curve here and generate a 2D polygon. I think I need to attach a viewpoint. Yeah. So I'll just go to a story, to the ground floor. So basically, I'm saying that that contour will generate in Archicad this fill. So you see that with this, every time I take this polyline and I move it, I'll be moving an array of elements. So I'll be moving a wall, I'll be moving a slab, I'll be moving a fill. So every element that is attached to this, it will be moving. And even on the sections, plans, elevations, this will be immediately reflected.
Yeah, and you could also curve those edges as well, Marcelo, or add points.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, so let's say, yeah, as James mentioned, I want to curve. I can just curve it here. And a wall can be curved, a slab can be curved with a curved edge, so it's not a problem. So if I open this from this view settings here, you can see even the curve represented inside Archicad. Okay, so now let's say I want to add elements that are based or that are point based. So one way we can do is I can just say, let's say I want to place an object here. Do we have a point in Archicad? Yes, we do. We have what is called a hotspot. So I put it here and here and here. And let's say I wanted to add an object or a column here. Let's say our engineer sent us a drawing and he wants a column placed on these points. So I can just go here and under the parameters from Graphisoft, the params, I go here and say I want these points, right click and choose set multiple points. Okay, this is getting me the points from Rhino. So basically what I have to do is get Archicad points, points, and make them then Rhino points, just like we've done before. So we have point in Archicad and a point in Rhino. Make sure that you're using the right one. You see that this one here says contains a collection of three-dimensional Archicad point coordinates. And the other one says contains a collection of three-dimensional points. So meaning that the right one is from Rhino, the left one is from Archicad. So if I right click and say set multiple points in Archicad, I can just choose this one, and then wherever I click, you will use that as my points. Then I just connect to this one. Let me bring this further down so it doesn't mix to what we're doing. And I say I want to place, for example, an object. Okay, so I go under design and I will choose, I want to place an object here. So what do I need? I need the anchor point. So he has placed chairs inside my Archicad as the objects I have here. Again, if I go to my object settings and I have different favorites, so I see here under furniture, I have multiple favorites. Let's say I want this to be a WC or a bed. I can just double click here, put favorite, and again, by connecting there, I will choose, okay, let me go slowly, I was clicking too stressed. So I'll show object favorites. Where are they?
Door, object, curtain wall.
Okay. So I'll go here, let's say if I want a sofa, I double click and all these objects that were placed there. Sometimes a good trick is to break the connection and start it again so that it runs through everything. And you see immediately everything became an object. Okay.
So what happens if you added more points? You would actually have to connect those back into Grasshopper, wouldn't you? So it couldn't automatically pick up new points that were added?
You have to add to the collection.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Probably add, I don't know. Yeah, the curve is something that would stay there, but the points are not so user-friendly in that sense. So, but now let's say I've shown you how we can use points to place punctual elements. Now let's see if I want to place, let's say, along my glass wall. If I want to place columns to hold this. Yeah. Yeah, I've moved the slab. Okay. So we can divide. So let's say I want to divide. I don't want to go much more into detail on this. So I want to divide this curve. And I will say in how many elements I want to divide it. Let's say I just type a number, let's say 12. And I will put here under count. And then what this will give me is points. So it's dividing this curve, but don't forget it's dividing the whole curve, okay? Because this was a single one. And then I want to add columns here. So I just choose the points will be the anchor point for my columns, and they're placed there. The endpoint that I want to have is actually, I should divide also the curve, the upper curve that we have here, and give the upper point. So let's say I go here, divide again. So I want to divide this curve. And I want to divide in the same number of points. So I will get from this other one. And these points will be the endpoints of my columns. So if I choose, a different height for the slab, my columns will follow the height of the slab. So you start seeing that immediately we have already like some spaghetti here. There are ways that we can, make these into groups and then reuse them. You can arrange them like nicely so that they don't overlap crazy like this. We can make the lines, the display of the lines. We can choose not to draw the icons or the lines. Take out the full name so we can make this, kind of simpler to read. But I'm using the full name so that you guys can understand what's going on here. Okay. Another thing that we can do is, for example, on this divide curve, we can use the kinks. Basically, this means that you will place a column on the corners. So I just right click under kinks and say that it's true. So what this will do is it will place a column on every corner every time that there is an inflection point, but it's still dividing the distance so that we have always the same distance in between the 12 numbers of columns. So if I move now, I want 48. What it's basically doing is dividing the whole curve into 48 columns. If we want to do this, segment by segment, we can do that just by exploding the original curve. We should put here an explode command. And then this would actually divide the curve into segments. And then this splitting that you see happening here would happen in between the segment points. So I won't do that. Otherwise, this will go into very complex. And I think that this is already good enough to showcase the power of this. So just a quick one. Let's see what happens in Archicad also. Besides having all the different floor plans, sections, elevations with a representation of this project, or I think calling it project is a bit too much at this stage. We can also have, let's say, a schedule of elements. So if I go to the wall schedule, the walls are there. We have glass wall with this thickness, with this volume, with this perimeter, with this classification. We can check, for example, the object inventory. I know that we have 5 sofas that are there. So you see, with this, we have the beauty of having the initial script that is generated from Grasshopper, but it's controlling all the data on our Archicad side. One thing I also want to highlight is that you don't need to do everything from the script. So if you want to, do other stuff inside Archicad and just ignore now the rest of the script that you have created, it's fine. We can do that. We can even break the connection at any time. Okay, so if we have it running, we can unlock the Grasshopper elements.
Marcelo?
We can, yes.
Chidam here. Yeah, there's a question from Ian and Catherine. What is the home story of all the elements?
Okay, by default, the elements will go to the home story where they are placed. One of the settings that we can put on the elements is exactly that. It's saying, so when you get the settings, it's saying that they will belong to a certain home story. So that's why I like to use the favorite, because the favorite can contain that data immediately. I would advise in the beginning to start using these scripts for small parts of the design or the whole concept stage or schematic stage, where you don't even pay much attention to the levels or to where the things sit. Because the more parameters you have to start setting from the settings or from the element settings, the more complex this spaghetti starts to become. But we can set that from the settings here. Let me see, for example, I will place a wall setting or a slab setting. And you can see that we can have the home story as a setting that we can add here. So I can just go here to the home story, set one home story, and I choose which story does it belong to. So I can force it. By right, it should end up somewhere within the floor range. If not, we can force it by using the slab settings node.
If slabs are being repeated vertically, they can automatically be made relevant.
Sorry, I'm listening to some sound. Let me mute all, and then you can you unmute yourself, James, and talk now?
Yes. If you're copying multiple slabs up, can they automatically go onto the relevant home story? So if you're copying 10 floors up, then they will go on the correct floors automatically? Or?
I think that's what happened here. So in 3D, this slab belongs to the second story.
Okay. Sure.
Okay, so normally, that's why I say normally, because, well, I don't know every situation that this would happen. Normally, these how should I say, these elements should end up within the floor range.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think that is a good assumption that he ends on the floor range.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So yeah, pretty much what I wanted to show was this, guys, is that, by starting with a script, you saw that I barely draw anything on Archicad side. Starting with a script, you can start changing everything. And if by any chance now, let me do something really crazy here. If by any chance now I want to do another shape for a building, let's say I'll do like this, and crazy. I want to make it curve.
Ah, it's like an ice cream cone.
No, sorry, man. It's close to that. Okay, it's a ugly project, but never mind.
Angry Birds.
Yeah. let's say all of a sudden I decide to change my whole project to that shape. I just need to select this one, go here, set one 2D curve in Archicad, and guess what happens? Now the whole script will adapt to this project. So when I go to 3D, my project changes to that shape. So this is the beauty of it. When you have the script sorted, you can actually change to any shape. Let's say the client says, man, you're crazy. I just want a rectangular shape here. You just go and say, okay, here's your project then. And you do it again, select, go here, set one to the curve in Archicad, and it will draw another design. So you want to have 10 design options in 10 minutes. It's pretty easy for you to do it, right?
Yeah.
So you see how we can go from one variation to another.
Marcelo, there's another question from Terence. Can we control by area?
I think so. You just need to do the script according to that, friend. This is a recipe, okay? It's like, well, you can have area given by many like mathematical equations, right? So I think you can prepare a script in that way. Let's say if it's rectangular, it's easy for us. We just say side A will have this, side B will have that. But it's a matter of how you come out with your script. This is really like the introduction, like with the basics for you guys to understand the concept. So I went through some operations, how we get some elements from Archicad, in this case, the viewport or a curve or a point, some parameters from Archicad, like the favorites, like even the whole wall settings and things like that. But the concept is this: we can generate a recipe that we can use anytime. So let's say I open another project and I want to do something like this. I know that I just draw the contour and the whole design will come up. So this is the power of a script like this. So let's say you have a script for louvers in a roof or some shading device on the facade. You will just follow the facade you want. You just have to choose that line and then you will follow it. So I strongly encourage you guys to go through the examples that we have here on the YouTube channel, because they will really give you a good idea of what is easily achievable. And these are normally, as you can see here, videos of 10 to 20 minutes. So I would say it would take about half an hour to follow them and learn how this works out for you. Okay, so I think with this, pretty much we ended the session. So I'd like to ask you again to follow us on social media. So on our Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn channels. You can also find this these videos and these recordings available on YouTube, on GRAPHISOFT Singapore webpage or YouTube page. So you can see the previous sessions are available there. And for those who would like to join the training courses by us, these are the dates that we have available. Soon we're also arranging with BCA a course that it's based on parametric design that we could get you guys invited for. So Chidam, you want to share more about it? What is the...
Yeah, this is focusing on computational BIM, like whatever Marcelo have introduced today. So there will be a bit of in-depth covering, and it is going to be on the 14th of August. We have a one-day session. Morning is more on theoretical things, and afternoon is more like a step-by-step showing you how you can do it. If you want to follow, you can follow maybe, right? So it's a one-day course. It is requested by BCA, and together with Singapore Poly and BCA, this is happening. So there will be participants invited by both BCA and Singapore Poly joining that session. So we would like to invite those who are interested to join this event as well, right? So I can put a event registration link on the chat window, so you can actually register for the event. Let me copy the thing.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Chidam. If you can share now. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so here you have also the link for our courses. We can, if there's also enough demand, we can do a Rhino-Grasshopper training course. We've done it before.
Yeah.
We take normally half a day. Thanks, Chidam, for sharing. As I mentioned earlier today, we just had last week the global digital event from Graphisoft. It was called Building Together. If you guys want to have a look at it, you just go to buildingtogether.graphisoft.com. There's the recording available. We'll also announce next week that we will have a session, localized session with so our own version of this Archicad 24 launch, where we will highlight the key features of Archicad 24 and how the industry can leverage on them. So stay tuned for that. We will share more details in the next session. Again, it comes to that time of the session that I would like to ask you to complete the short survey. Again, here you can tell us what would be the topics you'd like to see covered on next sessions, and give us like feedback about, you know, how the sessions went, if we're going too fast or too slow, or if we should have a hands-on session, or, you know, whatever. This is the place and time for you guys to do this. So please just with your phone scan this and complete the short survey there. So with this, I'd like to thank you all and end the session. If you have further questions, we'll be here to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Marcelo.